copy of this book.
Oh, sweet.
Take it away.
So I'll read a selection from my new Damnation release. It's a novella called Wild. It's an Old West detective horror meld based on a real missing persons case from the Old West.
Are you sure?
Unsolved. I'm pretty sure zombies had something to do with it. Kind of sort of solved the crime for it. At this point, they've already found evidence of the abduction of Colonel Albert Waters and his son. The main characters are a mysterious stranger named Matthias Jacoby. There is an outlaw named Tom. There is a Mexican former army medic named Juan that they pulled along to help out. And the section that I'm going to read from is actually from the diary of Juan on the journey. He's kind of the Watson to Matthias Jacoby, Sherlock Holmes. That was the original intent, and it got away from that. But yeah, he's like the Watson to Matthias Holmes, and they are going to bust down on some zombies. We smelled our attackers before we saw them. What's that? Matt whirled about, and then they were on us. 10 men shambled out of the hills, dressed more in dirt than in actual clothing. What little they wore was tattered and stained. Some were even barefoot. They howled when they saw us. "Sheriff's deputy, stop where you are!" Kurt cried, pointing his gleaming badge at the men. They were unarmed, but I could sense the threat rolling off them like fog in the breeze. Matt drew his guns and yelled at them once more to halt. They kept coming, slowly as before, howling softly and reaching for us. "Screw this," Black Tom said, pulled out his guns. He fired 2 shots as soon as he cleared leather, catching 2 of the ragged men in the chest. Clouds of flesh burst free of each, but little blood. They didn't stop coming. They didn't even slow down. "What the hell?" Tom stood there, slack-jawed, as the first of them reached us. Clawed at Tom's throat, and the outlaw took a step back, tripped over a rock, and fired as he went down. The shot took off the top of his attacker's skull, spraying brains and bone all over. This time it fell. "Spread out!" Matt yelled, firing over his shoulder as he gave himself room to maneuver. Another creature fell as I scrambled away. I saw my bedroll lie near a large rock and grabbed it as I dove for cover. He must have fallen from my horse when he ran off. I quickly untied the twine wrapped around it. Someone screamed, and I turned to see Kurt on his back in the dirt. Another of the things had fallen to his gun, but he'd tripped, and now 2 more attackers were closing in. I got a good look at them this time. One of them was missing an eye. No, it was dangling from his socket. The skin was gray and pulled back tightly from their teeth, and their scalps were bare in places. A dull, gleaming patch of skull shone through on one of them. The deputy crawled for his dropped revolver, spun around on his knees, and he retrieved it and fired. The hammer fell in an empty chamber. He fumbled with the spare rounds in his belt as the nearest creature reached for him. I finally got my bedroll unwrapped and pulled out my service revolver. I hadn't fired it in years, but it was loaded. I said a prayer to Santa Maria as I ran to Carney's side. I shot the first one in the face and it fell, twitching beside the deputy. I hit the other one with my shoulder, knocking it off balance, then took a step back and fired. Its head disintegrated. "Down!" Carney yelled, and I dropped to the ground. The deputy closed the cylinder of his revolver and fired over me, and another creature hit the dirt right in front of my face. I crawled away and vomited. And it was over. "Good shooting, Juan," Matt said, blowing the smoke from his pistols and holstering them. "Did you have that with you the whole time?" "Yes," I said as I wiped my mouth. "And you didn't think about shooting those cowboys back in town?" "Of course I did, senor, but they were unarmed. I've never killed an unarmed man." And I paused for a moment and looked around at the gore-strewn desert, until now, of course. "You're a better man than me," Black Tom said. "Think you can put your mind at ease, though." He kicked at one of the corpses. "There's no way these fellows were alive when they attacked us." "What are you saying?" I asked. "Your madre never told you any fairy tales when you were a niño?" "Sure, about witches and magic and, yeah, well, how do you explain this?" the outlaw asked, cocking an eyebrow. "Damn," Kurt muttered. He stood a short distance away, cradling his left arm. Matt ran over and examined him. "One of those things bit him. Do we have anything sharp?" "See," I said. "I have an axe in my bedroll for chopping firewood. It fell off when my horse ran away. What do you need it for?" "Ah, shit," Tom said. "I know what he's thinking. Just get the axe, senor. The whole bedroll while you're at it." I jogged to the rock where I left my things and brought back the axe, a pillow, and my blanket. When I returned, Matt and Tom had laid Kurt down in the dirt. "Put the pillow under his head," Matt said. While I did, Tom wrapped a dangling piece of twine around the deputy's arm, slid a stick under it, and twisted, drawing the string tight. "It's dangerous, Matt. Cutting off circulation this far from the hospital could cost the deputy his limb," I said. "I know. I've heard stories too," Matt said, pulling a flask from his back pocket and undoing his belt. "Going to cut his arm off so the infection doesn't spread, if there is one." Maga de Dios, I cried, reaching to undo the string. Are you crazy? I have medical training. I can clean and dress the wound. Look, I know it sounds loco, Tom said, pulling me back. We just fought the Walking Dead. You saw him take a bullet to the chest without stopping, just like I did. Now, it might just be a big pile of shit, but you don't want to risk the infection spreading and turning the deputy into one of them. Even I don't think he deserves that. It's okay, Lon, Kurt murmured. I don't want to chance it either. You should do it, Man said, handing me the axe. You're the doc. Yes, I am the doc, and I'm telling you that you're making a diagnosis based on a fairy tale, that we're not in a sterile environment, and that he has a much greater chance of infection from an amputation than from a bite. Come on, senor, Tom said, snatching the flask and taking a long pull. You mean to tell me the deputy's got bigger cojones than you? Hell, I've done worse. Give me the axe. No, I said, taking a deep breath. It's going to happen either way. It's definitely safer with me. Give him some whiskey, but save some to pour in my axe, and for when I'm done. Matt took back the flask and dumped a slug of whiskey down the deputy's throat, then poured some on the axe. Afterward, he doubled up his belt and stuck it in Kurt's mouth. Bite down hard, I told him, testing the tightness of the twine around his arm. Then I planted my knees firmly in the dirt and raised the axe over my head. I swung. The axe bit deep.